Hello everyone, this is UI once again. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to try to make the episode 2 of my DF64 101, and I'll be going through after you have gotten to know your grinder better, what is the next thing you should look into. For example, what are the modifications that you need, or any upgrade to the burr that is required. And I have to mention Simon from Anotter Coffee, right? He has recently write a blog post about all the modification as well as the SSP multi-purpose burr and the flavor that it produces. If you haven't watched his blog post, I strongly encourage you to watch it or read it, right? I'll post a link in my video description later on so that you can read Simon's post on the DF64 and the enhancement due to the modification of all the mods that's created by the community, right? So before we get started on the episode 2 of 101, let's make a cup of coffee. Today's coffee, I'm going to use the Colombian beans I've roasted on my Kaleido M10 Sniper coffee roaster. So this is actually roasted by my brother, right? He actually taught me how to roast on Artisan, and he was actually in Malaysia, and he used an app to control my laptop and use my laptop to control the roasting function on my M10 Sniper Pro. So you can see you can even have like a distance roasting if you can have someone to take over your PC, and if you trust the person, of course, and he can actually roast and teach you how to roast on the Artisan, which is Bluetooth connected from your laptop or your computer to the roaster. So this is the coffee bean we roasted to about 60, right? It appears quite dark here, but it's actually not very dark, and the smell is amazing, right? I have never roasted to this intensity and the smell before, and usually I don't do quite well in the Colombian beans because I do not get hot enough to the inside of the coffee seed, and this time the roast is really very good. So I'm just going to do about 18 grams, and I'm just going to use my Ita mill, right? And basically this is the new Portafilter Adapter, right? Usually I like to dose directly into the cup, and you can also use the niche cup if you want to, because this adapter is able to fit both the original dosing cup as well as the niche cup, right? So I will probably be using the niche one for today. Alright, so let me first dose measure about 18 grams. Right, it's pretty late now, it's almost close to 11. But can you imagine, I'm so busy today and I don't really have a cup of proper coffee. So this is my actual first cup of proper coffee, and I'm probably going to make a latte. So let's see. Again, I'm still using the cover from my potato chips. Yep, it's a little bit harder to fit in, but I like this version better. My current grind setting is about 14, so I think it should be good to go. Let's see how it goes. Right, there's absolutely very reduced popcorn action. And let's measure the dosage. It retained about 0.4. Let me try to blow up more coffee beans. Right, it's about 0.1 gram of retention. I would say that that's pretty good. Right, so let me show you my workflow. After I grind my coffee beans, I usually put my portafilter inside the group head to heat it up, so it's very nice and warm. Right, as you can see, the niche cup produces a very deep cutout at the surrounding, and I think that's the disadvantage of using a niche cup, but it doesn't really matter if you do a WTT. Right, so I'm just going to use these WTT tools, right, which is actually very convenient. You can see it's already fluffed up. And it's very convenient because you can spin to clean the needles. And by the way, this is the distributor that Thomas has gotten for me. Right, it's a very hefty one, and the color of the wood looks really like the accent, the wood accent on the Bianca. Alright, so I like to use this cookie press. Right, and let's see. And usually for heat exchanger, I will flush it before I pull a shot. Right, about 3 to 4 seconds will do. And I'll be using the flow control. So let me bring you closer to see the extraction. So normally I prefer my flow control to open to about 3/4, and I'll do a half lever to engage the pre-infusion so that the water will trickle down to soak the part to be slightly wet, and then I will open up fully. Slight channeling over there. Right, I'm running only about 6 bar, and that's my preferred pressure for now. Right, you can see that it's flowing slightly fast, which means I probably didn't get my grind setting correct, but I think it still looks pretty good. Right, nowadays I tend to do espresso extraction at about 6 bar rather than 9 bar, and I find that the taste is actually better to my liking rather than at 9 bar. And usually at 9 bar, the espresso will taste definitely much richer, but it will give me more a more heavy body, and also slightly on the, if I extract it to be higher pressure, it tends to give me a slightly more bitter rather than sweetness. So let me get the milk ready. Alright, so let's push the steam. Get the milk ready. Get a cloth, wipe down. Right, do a purge. And let's make some latte. Okay, it's not too bad. Okay, so now let me get a chair and sit down to talk about the improvement or the modification you can choose to have on your DF64. Right, cheers. It's a very good cup. Very rich in body, very chocolatey and nutty, and this is the kind of latte that I really like. The sweetness is there, but I think the chocolatey and nuttiness is on a higher side as compared to the sweetness. It's perfect for the night. Right, so we shall start to talk about what are the improvements you can make on your DF64. I believe the question that I get the most in my sales of DF64 is, should I upgrade the burr set? And currently there are 3 types of burr sets available from SSP Korea. One is the Espresso, which is actually known as the high uniformity. The second set is called the SSP red speed coated multi-purpose, and the third type is actually called SSP brew, and that is what is commonly known as the uni model. And a lot of people confuse between the 3. So basically, one is meant for espresso, one is meant for pour over and espresso, and which is the multi-purpose. And if you want to do brew, right, you should be getting the SSP brew or the uni model set. So technically there are 3 sets. Currently my shop only carries the SSP, and we have just run out of stock on the multi-purpose. We will be restocking, so just be patient with us. And currently we are actually asking customers to collect their DF64 in Singapore if you have ordered in June and July. So right now we are actually asking my customers to come to collect the grinders from me. So let's go back to the burr, right? Is it necessary to upgrade the burr? In my opinion, I believe you should try the original Itamil first. However, if you have been using the grinder, you have been using electric grinder for some time, and you have owned other grinders, then I believe it is good for you to upgrade to SSP direct, because you know the difference between the stainless steel Itamil burr set versus the SSP. And I find it difficult to explain to customers what is technically the difference between the 2. And I love cars, so not particular any brand, but I always use the example of Itamil burr set as Toyota and the SSP burr as Lexus, right? Both Toyota and Lexus are very good cars. One is economical, you can last for a long time. In this case, it's not so true for Itamil versus SSP, because SSP actually lasts 4 times longer than the Itamil. But a good Toyota can last you for a long time, and everyone knows about it, right? That's what Toyota is famous for. So why do I give the analogy of using Toyota versus Lexus? It's just that the refinement in taste and the clarity, the tasting note is being highlighted in a way that is that all these characters in the coffee bean has been brought out much better as compared to the original Itamil. However, if you are the first time owning an electric grinder, and if you upgrade directly to the SSP burr, then you may not be able to tell the improvement over the original stainless steel Itamil burr set. So my opinion is, if you are first time owning an electric grinder, you should try to stay with the stock burr set and get a taste profile, and then in the future, if you choose to upgrade to a SSP burr set, then you can actually tell the taste difference. That's in my personal opinion. And of course, SSP burr is not cheap. It costs almost half the price as the electric grinder, DF64 itself, right? So as I repeat again, right, if you are first time owning the electric grinder, I recommend you to stick with your stainless steel Itamil before you upgrade to SSP. That's my personal opinion, right? And what are the differences between SSP Espresso, SSB multipurpose, and SSB unimodel. Right, the unimodel and the multipurpose, the burr set looks very similar. The only difference is the multipurpose allows, I believe, right, the multipurpose allow a small fraction of fine, so that when you make espresso grind, it can produce a decent espresso, right? Because you know multipurpose is trying to be good at both ends, so it will not be as good as the SSP espresso, which is the high uniformity. So if you are a person that does filter coffee as well as espresso, then you may want to choose the multi-purpose. However, if you only do espresso, then of course you go for the SSP high uniformity or the espresso. So there are lesser people using the SSP brew, which is actually the unimodel, because many of us that own a flat burr grinder, we would prefer to do an espresso because it gives us a much more chocolatey flavor, which most of us like chocolatey and nutty flavor in espresso rather than high acidity and brightness. I'm not saying high acidity and brightness is no good, it's just up to personal taste. Me personally, if I'm doing espresso, I prefer my espresso to be nutty and chocolatey, and if I do filter coffee, I prefer my drinks to be bright, fruity, and sweet and high clarity. So the SSP multipurpose does give us that kind of taste profile, right? However, the acidity and the brightness has been lowered tremendously as compared to the niche, right? I will have another episode talk about the differences between the niche and the DF64, and they will be coming after I finish my 101 series on the DF64. Right, so that's on the burr set. Next, we shall move on to the second modification, which is the declumper mod. Right, I know Simon from the Otter Coffee, right, has done a test on the declumper. Right, I'm not too sure why the declumper melt. I think he has probably pushed quite a lot of coffee grind in a very short span of time, and then of course the heat will melt this plastic, because this is a PLA plastic, and then it can only withstand the temperature up to about 50 to 60 degrees Celsius, and the plastic will actually start to deform. Right, these are actually environmental friendly plastics, which is made from corn, but because they are actually coloring, so if you choose to use this, is you have to watch out for the safety, right? It depends on the PLA, which is actually the 3D printing filament that you're using. So I would suggest you use a food safe material, right? Currently, Thomas, right, my good friend in Singapore, has come up with a thinner layer of silicone, and I think it has been working very well. And in the next episode, I will open up my grinder and show you the combinations of this and the thin layer of silicone that I use, right, as my declumper. So this I would suggest you don't use first, right, until I find out more about the outcome. And currently this has been removed from my 3D file sharing website. So this has been removed because I don't want people to use this, as what Simon has pointed out. It can actually lead to melting, and I don't want people to use melted plastic in their coffee. Right, so this file has been removed. The mod that I recommend highly, right, is the anti-popcorn. Right, I know my diameter is 820, but I have a very little issue of the coffee bean actually choke up. And if the coffee bean ever choke up, what you need to do is actually just need to turn your bellow, and the coffee bean will drop nicely inside, and this will solve your choking problem where the bean actually doesn't go down as fast, right? So this will reduce your grinding time, right? According to Simon, right, he says that the grinding time has been reduced by 30%. I will do a test, right, to see whether whether the time is actually reduced by that significant amount, right? The popcorn has been significantly reduced. So this is the design can be found on the Thingiverse, right? I have shared the file freely. It's a non-commercial file, so you shouldn't be producing this for profit. If you are, please get in touch with me, right? So this is my anti-popcorn design. The base design comes from Thomas again, right? He's very good at drawing, and he actually passed the design to me, and I further enhance it so that it is a more snugly fit, and it hug very tightly to the wall of the internal side of the bellow, and no beans will be trapped there. Right. The third mod I suggest very highly, I recommend very highly, is actually this Portafilter Adapter. Right, let me get a sip of coffee. It's good. Right, so this thing, why you need this? As you can see from a lot of DF64 user, right, a lot of them has a lot of static issue, and especially when they grind costly, maybe around 45. As long as you grind coarse for filter coffee, usually there will be more shaft collected at the chute and closer around the mouth of the chute. And I do have some of that. You can see on the grinder, the darker one, there's quite a bit of static and a lot of coffee, fine coffee powder attracted to that area, right? To me, right, it doesn't really create a huge mess, and I can always use a wet cloth to clean it, right, and it will just be gone. And I think cleaning your coffee equipment is just part and parcel of life if you are a person making coffee. At least for me it is. So I don't mind a little bit of mess. I can just clean it up, and it's as good as new. So this thing, the advantage of this is actually it brings the I'm not too sure whether you can see from far, right? You can actually bring the dosing cup much closer to the exit chute. So maybe I bring you closer to see the difference. So as you can see, this is the original dosing cup before the adapter is being attached. So now let me attach the adapter. So can you see the difference now? It is inclined, so the coffee will come out and dose directly inside. There will be less chance of the coffee flying out. And of course, if you dose more than 20 grams, the coffee is going to fill up higher, and when you bellow, right, definitely there will be some ground flying out, unless you try Thomas modification, whereby he actually built a deflector, right, to deflect the coffee back into the cup. And that is actually a very neat and very smart design. I love the design though, right? It gives the body a metallic look and a more modern look, right? I think it's a pretty nice and pretty design, right? I like the design. And maybe Thomas and myself can come out. We can come out with a physical design in a 3D printed way, and maybe you can just line you can just paste the inside with aluminum tape, and that will actually try to deflect the beans. Or maybe we can line the inside with a PTFE sheet, and because PTFE sheet is very smooth, you will be quite hard to attach to the 3D printed parts because it's too smooth. So let me and Thomas figure that out for you, right? Okay, so that is the second modification. I think it's the third modification, right? After the declumper, right? The empty popcorn and the Portafilter Adapter, right? All these can be downloaded from Thingiverse. You just do a search. My username in Thingiverse is actually Godspeed, right? It's actually GODSP E. There are 5 E's, then followed by a D, right? Just search my user ID, or you can just search for DF64 mods. You should be able to find my file, right? And the fourth upgrade is this 10-degree tilted base. There's some of my viewers actually downloaded this and printed out, and I do understand that it will be harder for you to put your portafilter, right? Let me show you, right? Because my 10-degree tilt base is tilting the exit chute to be slightly more vertical as compared to the original design. So what happened is now your portafilter will be inclined down, and when you try to dose coffee, right, the coffee tend to get spurted out, right? And this situation can actually be improved if you have a dosing ring, right? Let me show you. Right, the dosing rings look something like this, and you can actually put on top, and you can actually reduce the amount of splattering, right? So even though it's inclined downwards, right, this you can have an adapter ring, right, so that most of the coffee can be dosed directly into it. But you can see that the gap is still quite high as compared to after I attach my adapter, right? So this is really up to you. Depends on your habits in making your espresso. So is this 10-degree tube base necessary? What does it do, right? In my experience, I realized that whenever I put my DF64 on the 10-degree tube base, I have significantly less clogging, which means my burr does not get choked up. At least for the past 1.5 months I've been using, I grind about 2 to 3 18 grams of shots every day at least, and I have no issue of my burr being jammed with all the coffee powders. I've never experienced that before, right? And that could be a combination of reasons. It could be due to the fact that it is on a 10-degree tube base. The coffee ground comes out in a much easier way due to the gravity pull, or it can also be due to my combinations of my the declumper mod and the PVC flap that I've designed on this on the grinder that is the darker color, right? This one has a declumper mod 2 with the PVC flap that design, which you can see in my another video. And this one has got the declumper version 2 plus the thin layer of silicone that Thomas has sent to me. It is thinner than the original silicone that's used by the DF64, and I cut out in the same shape as the Mythos one design, right, whereby it is like a jagged design like this, right? So now the flaps open this way rather than over, right? You know, the original design, the flap is like open up this way, right? So I believe like this way is better than this way, right? That's only my personal opinion. And due to this combination of reasons, I have no clogging issue whatsoever, right? My grinder has been tip-top condition. When I open my grinder, right, because of the 10-degree tube, my internal chamber of the grinder is mostly clean. There's very little coffee ground that's trapped inside. So that's the advantage of using the 10-degree tube base. Another thing is about burr alignment. I realized that whenever I have my grinder on the 10-degree tube, it is much easier for me to get the burr alignment to be 95 to 100% aligned. And I'm still waiting for my dial, my dial to come in, so that I can actually do a proper alignment. And I hope I can show you with the base and without the base, will there be any significant difference. So this is definitely optional. This is not something you must have. And another very often question is, must you align the burr? Right? Is it very important? I would say that aligning burr is like a well-seasoned car. It's like a car that's being very well tuned, so it will give you better handling. It will give you a better feeling as you drive the car. You have more confidence when you drive the car when it's well tuned. It gives you more power, it gives you more mileage, it saves you more petrol and things like that. So the same thing goes with well aligned burr, I believe. That's an analogy I'm trying to give you. So I think a well aligned burr, because the burr is more parallel to each other, the grind size will be more uniform as compared to when the burr is actually at an incline to one another. So if you have a chance to align your burr, I believe you should. Is it really necessary? I would say it depends on your expectation. Does it affect the improvement of the espresso grinder? Yes, it definitely will affect the taste profile of your espresso, because the grind size and the way that the beans are cut will be slightly different when it's parallel or when it's at an angle position. So that's again my personal opinion. I'm still waiting my cruise sifter to come in. I've asked them to send me a 15-piece sieve so that I can actually check all the grind distribution and how is there a lot of fine versus when I do for espresso, or when I do filtered coffee, will there be a lot of fine, what's the percentage of fine versus the medium and the coarse, right? So I'm going to do analysis on that when my sieve arrives. And last one, and I believe this is one of the most important, right, you should have is actually this grind indicator, right? This you must have, right? The reason why you must have this grind indicator, right? Again, this file is freely downloadable on Thingiverse, right? Is because as you can see, there's a pin around as it should, right? This pin is supposed to be the 0 setting, but if you have been using the grinder for some time, you know that your grinder may not have the 0 point exactly aligned at the pin position. So I have shown in my the first video of my 101 that you have to first find the touching point, which I call it the 0 point of the grinder, before you actually put in this. Push all the way down so that the pointer will be pointing at your grinder 0 point. Remember, your grinder 0 point is not the position at which the pin's indicator here is, right? This pin indicator is trying to tell you this is some form of reference, but it's not the 0 point for your grinder. And furthermore, if you're using SSP, your 0 point will probably be at 3 o'clock, between 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock position. If you are using the stainless steel Itamio burr, your 0 point should be around, if it is well aligned, right, it should be around at between 6 to 7 o'clock, right? That's my personal experience. And another advantage of having a well aligned burr is you will have a wider range for espresso grind. You're able to grind with a better range of espresso. You'll find that you can grind with finer adjustment as compared to a burr set that's not so well aligned, right? So this is a must-have, right? This is very good to have. This is subjected to my further investigation. This is good to have, but it's not necessary. But it does give you a grinder a better look, right? And currently I'm sending this this design, right? This one and the adapter to be finished in wood. I've asked my factory to help me produce this in I think I'm going to do in walnut. So please look out for it. It should be ready in about I think 3 to 4 weeks time, and I have mass produced them, so I'll be putting them on sale on my shop very soon. So this will be the real wood version, and you know, these are all plastic, right? So I think a wood version will be better. Yeah, I mean the coffee will stain the wood, but I don't really mind, right? Because at least it's natural. Okay, so I think this is what I have for you today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'm CY, and I have been playing this grinder for a long time. And if you are trying to get a DF64 in Singapore, right, you can look for me because I have the knowledge of this grinder, and I've been playing with this grinder for a long time. I know a lot of this grinder, and I built a lot of modification to enhance the user experience of the grinder. So if you're in Singapore, do remember to get the grinder from me, and you can reach me by visiting my website. I'll be linking my website in the link down below, right? There's a price difference between the price I list on my website and the price I list on my carousel. And I know recently there's a few companies out there trying to beat me on my price. Sadly to say, I'm not going to lower my price. My competitor can continue to lower their price because I believe in my sales support and my improvement of my grinder. So yeah, if you want to buy from me, right, get in touch with me. If you want to buy from them, go ahead, it's fine, right? So thank you for joining me today. I want to give a shout out to Simon from Anotter Coffee, right? I believe he's in Canada, right? Please go and read this blog post on the DF64. And this is CY once again. Thank you for joining me today. This is 101 part 2 on DF64. I hope you have progressed with me in the learning journey on this grinder, and let's make this affordable and good quality grinder better for everyone. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and see you very soon, and stay safe.